Welcome back, everyone, and welcome to AfterCLIMB, which is our opportunity to demo specific features of our POS system. Now, I'm going to keep my camera off. You already know who I am and what I look like. I'm going to keep my camera off to maximize the screen size so that it's easier to see, especially when you get to the report feature. Last month, during Climb, I actually talked about the importance of moving your inventory and getting rid of items that don't sell. Um, Today, I'm going to be building on that a bit by showing you what I believe to be really the most important report in our system, the return on investment report. And before we get to that, I'd like to look at a couple of the concepts behind that report. Um, so let's start by taking a look here at inventory turns. So inventory turns is a calculation you'll see on the report. It equals the cost of goods sold divided by the average inventory cost. And really that measures the number of times you sell through your inventory during the year. And as an example, if you had sales of front-end inventory of sales of $500,000 and the cost of those sales are $300,000 and your average inventory over the course of the year is $150,000, then your turns are the cost of goods, 300,000, divided by the average inventory of 150,000, which would give you 2 turns. Now, if you remember from last month when I talked about turns, the average retail pharmacy on the front end is between 2 and 4 turns per year. So we'll see some numbers here in a little bit from an actual pharmacy, and you'll be able to do a comparison. But you really want to be in that 2 to 4 and really on the upper end of that. And I think that if you're really managing your inventory, you could on the front end see 6 or better. So then let's look at the second concept, gross profit return on investment, or better referred to as Gyproi. Calculation for Gyproi is the gross profit um, divided by the average inventory cost. And that measures the amount returned on every dollar invested in inventory. So as an example, if your Gyproi was 300%, it means that for every dollar you invested in inventory, your return is $3. Let's look at some benchmarks here. So Gyproi varies really by retail segment, with some segments being in the 150% range. That really comes from sporting goods on the low end, to others being around 600%, the high end. And that's the grocery world where they're turning just really rapidly and moving through inventory quickly. Now, I looked in to show you some ideas in the pharmacy world. We looked at 2 chains in 2019. CVS was at 220%, and Walgreens reported at 330%. Um, so if your Gyproi is in the 200 to 300 range, you're probably looking pretty good. If your Gyproi, and the important point is, if your Gyproi falls below 100%, then you have an issue. And we're going to look at this report now, and I'm going to show you how to run it. And we're going to look at by department. So that just give me a sec here, and we'll do that. But let me flip over here to my system, my demo system. I'm going to go to product reports. And under financial reports, you'll see the return on investment report. Now, before I go into the details of that report, I also want to point out that you have the profit analysis report. I prefer the return on investment report. The profit analysis report, they're very similar reports, have mostly the same data, use the same calculations. But the nice thing about the return on investment report, from my perspective, is that it gives you the ability to compare 2 different periods of time. So today I'm going to compare 2020 to 2019. Okay, so as we get into the report, the way that I teach to run this report is to start by looking at the department and looking at all of your departments, skipping your inactive items. Um, and then also, don't go with detailed. You want a summary report. You just want to see all of your departments the first time around. And I'm going to compare, as I mentioned, January of 2020 through December of 2020 to January of 2019 to December of 2019. Now, as I said, you're going to run all your departments. My demo system, I only sell when I'm doing demos from 2 different departments. So just for sake of quickness, to speed this demo along, I'm just going to choose the 2 departments that I sell from. That'll give us a quick report, and then I'll go and show you actual data from one of our customers. Okay, so here's the details from an actual report, and I'm gonna go through the columns here just because this report's pretty simple, pretty easy to see. So we've got the different departments. I've got 2 departments that I'm selling from. The cost of inventory column is the current cost of inventory in your system. Okay, that's today's value. Then we have the sales comparison, January through December 2020, January, December of 2019. So you have your dollar sales, your dollar cost, your dollar profit, the percent margin. Then for the same thing for 2019. Then you have the comparison, the dollar change between 2020 and 2019, the percent change, and that's in sales. And then looking at profit, the dollar change in profit, and the percent change in profit. Now, if you're not on inventory control, all of this data that you see right now is very valuable to you still. The next columns over, you have to be on inventory control. You have to be doing on-hand quantities. But look at all the valuable information here. You can look at this report on a regular basis, I would say at least quarterly, and compare all of your departments, see departments where your margins are bad, see departments where your sales really aren't very good either. And you really have that ability to look at that and make comparisons year over year, quarter over quarter, half over half, whatever you'd like. Now, for those of you who are on inventory, or for those of you who are thinking about going on inventory, when you get to this, you get to see this is the average value of inventory over the period of time. In this case, over the course of the year. This is your average value of inventory over the course of 2020. And then your inventory turns and your Gyproi. I'm not going to spend any time on this report because this isn't really good data. So let me switch over to some data from one of our customers. So I got this data. This report was ran last week, so it's very current data. And so let's take a look here. If we start at the top with analgesics, you got analgesics, antacids, so forth. We can look over here. You can see the inventory turns of 3.7 in analgesics with a Gyproi of 336%. That's great. You're in the 2 to 4 range on the inventory turns. You're well into the 300% range for Gyproi. And if you look further down, you get antacids, 5.4 turns, 448%. Those are really, really good numbers. Now, when you get down to baby needs, you're looking at 1.3 turns, marginal, and then the Gyproi, of course, falls as well to 108%, also marginal. Could probably look at baby needs and see if there's some ways to improve that department. And you can go through the entire report, looking at the good and the bad, and start to evaluate. Now, I chose to look at the very first really bad one, which is a negative Gyproi. And when you look at that entire entire line item, you'll see under diet and nutritional supplements that we have a negative profit. So we see the sales and then the cost of sales significantly higher for that negative profit, which is causing that negative Gyproi. So when you see something like this, then the next step is to drill down. And the way that works, I'm going to go back over, get out of this report, go back over to my return on investment report. And this time, instead of running it by department, I want to look at all of the fine lines in Department 13. So I'm going to go to fine line. I'm going to go selected fine line. I'm going to continue with the inactive items. And typically I would not run detailed at this point. I would just go and look at all of those fine lines. So I'm going to click next here, and I'm going to go down to Department 13 in the fine lines, and that's the first 2 digits of the fine line represent the department. So I can come down here and find my 13s. I'll select that first 13. Now, this is a little trick in case you don't know this. You can scroll down and go to that last 13. If you hold the shift key down and then you click on that last of the the 13 department, you'll get all of those will automatically get highlighted. You click add and they all get added for you. So just a little quick tip. We'll click next. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I only sell from 2 departments, Department 1 and Department 3. So when I click preview here, we're going to get nothing to print because I don't have anything that I sell in Department 13. So that's fine. Let's go ahead and go over to look at the fine line report for the store. I had them run the same report for Department 13, all the fine lines. Now, I mentioned when I run my report, I would run it not detailed. So then I would just get a summary of just the fine lines and their Gyprois, okay? Just for sake of time, I had them run the report in a detailed fashion, which then gives you all of the items under each of the fine lines. So we'll look here and you see that for this fine line diet foods, the Gyproi is 180%. For this next one down, weight control, it's 169%. So we're looking for the problem fine lines and the problem items. And here we come to fine line 1341, nutritional foods and supplements, with a negative Gyproi of 73%. So here's where at least one of our problems lies, is in this fine line, and we can scroll down and look, and we don't see any items, at least on this page, that have a problem. So we can go to the next page, and here's where we find our problem. So then the second page under that fine line, we see we have 2 items with negative profits and negative Gyprois. So what does this mean? Well, it could be just garbage data. It could mean that you had the wrong, there was a data entry error and the wrong costs were in place. Could mean that the wrong retails were in place as well, and that you actually sold this at below cost. The idea though is there is a problem. Now you can drill down into those items and you can see what the situation is and get it corrected for the future. Okay, so that's the basics of what to do. You start with the departments, you look, and then you drill down into the individual departments where you think you have a problem, and then you go all the way down to the individual items within those departments to correct those problems. And it can be a wide variety of things. And it may be that you're just absolutely overstocked in a certain department and you need to cut the inventory that you're carrying in that department, so that you are turning that inventory more frequently and improving your Gyproi. Okay, so that I'm wrapping that up. I'm going to stick around for questions. Next month, I'll discuss inventory control and the tools that make this report more accurate and give you the ability to really fine-tune your inventory. So that'll be my focus. It'll be a deep dive next month. So if you can't stick around for questions, just know that that's what's coming up next month. And I look forward to seeing you all next month. And again, I'm going to stick around for questions now. Thanks everybody for coming.